A single touch lasting less than 3 seconds can flood a woman's brain with enough oxytocin to make her feel emotionally bonded to you for hours. That is not poetry, that is neuroscience. And yet, most men have absolutely no idea which touches trigger that response and which ones make a woman quietly decide she will never see you again. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly which 7 touches change everything. And number 5, that one is almost unfair. Here is something that most people will never tell you out loud. A mature woman does not fall in love with words. She has heard every compliment. She has read every sweet text. She has sat through every candlelit dinner where a man tried too hard to say the right thing. Words stopped impressing her a long time ago. What actually moves her, what actually cracks open that guarded heart she has spent years protecting, is something far more primal touch. But not just any touch, not clumsy. I saw this in a movie kind of touch. I am talking about specific, intentional, psychologically powerful touches that communicate things words literally cannot say. Safety, confidence, tenderness, desire, all without opening your mouth. Dr. Dasher Kellner, a psychologist at UC Berkeley, conducted a fascinating study where strangers were asked to communicate emotions through brief touches on the forearm. No words, no facial expressions, just touch. The result, people could accurately identify emotions like gratitude, love, and sympathy through touch alone with up to 788% accuracy. 78%. Your mouth wishes it could be that effective. So, if you have ever wondered why some men seem to effortlessly make women feel connected to them while others try everything and still get the friend speech, this is your answer, it is not about what they say, it is about how they touch. And a mature woman, a woman who has been through enough to know exactly what she wants, responds to this on an entirely different level than someone in her 20s. Now, before I walk you through all 7 of these touches, I need to warn you about something. 2 of the touches on this list seem so simple that you will be tempted to dismiss them. Do not. Those are the ones that mature women have specifically told me make them feel things they cannot explain. And the last touch on this list, number 7, has a psychological effect so strong that relationship therapists actually prescribe it to couples on the edge of separation. I will explain why when we get there. Let us start with the first touch that quietly rewires how she feels about you. The first touch is what I call the slow lower back guide. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is just basic gentleman behavior, hear me out because the science behind this one is staggering. When you place your hand gently on the small of a woman's back, maybe while walking her through a doorway, guiding her through a crowd, or standing beside her at an event, you are activating one of the most nerve-dense areas of the human body. The lower back contains a massive cluster of nerve endings that are directly connected to the brain's emotional processing centers. A slow, confident, warm hand placed there sends a signal that bypasses logic entirely. But here is the part most men mess up. Speed and pressure matter enormously. A quick pat on the back feels like something her uncle would do at Thanksgiving. A heavy push feels controlling, but a slow, steady, warm placement of your full palm with just enough pressure to say, I am here and I am aware of you, triggers what psychologists call a protective bonding response. Her nervous system reads it as safety. Her brain releases oxytocin, and emotionally, she starts associating your presence with calm. A mature woman especially responds to this because she has spent years being the strong one. She has handled everything herself. She has been her own protector. When a man places his hand on her lower back with quiet confidence, it is not about control, it is about communication. It says you do not have to carry everything alone right now. And for a woman who has been carrying the weight of her world on her own shoulders, that single gesture can feel more romantic than 100 roses. I once read a comment from a woman in her late 40s who said, and I am paraphrasing, he put his hand on my back while we were walking into a restaurant, and I felt something I had not felt in 15 years. I felt chosen. That is the power of this touch when it is done correctly. The second touch is the two-handed handhold, and this one is criminally underrated. Most people hold hands. That is not special. Teenagers hold hands at the mall. What I am talking about is different. This is when you take her hand and then bring your other hand over to cradle it, both of your hands holding one of hers. Maybe during a conversation, maybe during a quiet moment, maybe after she has just told you something vulnerable. This touch works because of something called bilateral stimulation. When both of your hands are engaged in holding hers, it creates a symmetrical sensory input that her brain interprets as full attention and emotional presence. Therapists actually use bilateral touch techniques in EMDR therapy to help people process emotional trauma. So when you hold her hand with both of yours, you are quite literally giving her brain a signal that says, "You are safe here. I am fully present." For a mature woman, this is devastating in the best possible way. She has probably spent years with men who were physically present but emotionally somewhere else. Their body was at the dinner table, but their mind was on their phone, their work, their fantasy football league. When you hold her hand with both of yours and look at her while she is speaking, you are giving her something she may have stopped believing existed: full, undivided, embodied attention. And honestly, the contrast alone is what makes this so powerful. She has had years of half-hearted affection. When she feels both of your hands wrapped around hers with warmth and intention, her brain practically screams, "This one is different." And once a mature woman's brain decides you're different, good luck to every other man who tries to compete with that. Now, touch number 3 is the one that catches most women completely off guard. It is the forehead touch. And no, I do not mean a forehead kiss, although we will talk about something similar later. I mean the act of gently pressing your forehead against hers, foreheads touching, eyes close naturally, breathing syncs up, the world goes quiet. This might sound overly intimate for something so simple, but the psychological weight of this gesture is enormous. Dr. Sue Johnson, the creator of emotionally focused therapy and one of the most cited relationship researchers alive, has written extensively about what she calls bonding moments. These are micro interactions that activate the attachment system in adults, the same way a mother's touch activates it in infants. The forehead touch is one of the most potent bonding moments two adults can share. Why? Because it requires a vulnerability from both people. You cannot press your forehead against someone's from across the room. You have to be close. You have to slow down. You have to let your guard down. And for a mature woman who has built emotional walls high enough to block out most of the nonsense the world has thrown at her, this touch is a quiet knock on a door she forgot she had. It does not demand anything. It does not escalate. It just says, "I am right here with you and nowhere else matters."